Welcome to the deep dive, where we really try to cut through the noise and get to what matters.
Exactly.
And today, well, we're diving into a really fascinating, maybe cautionary tale. It's about a public figure, someone whose image, this carefully built image of strength, intellect, it came under some serious scrutiny.
Yeah, and revealed some pretty surprising contradictions. It's almost a classic case, isn't it?
Yeah.
Perception versus reality.
Totally. Especially now in the digital age.
Right, where building a persona seems easy, but keeping it real under the public eye. That's the hard part.
So our focus today is Brandon. He's a figure from, well, the LA podcasting scene. Became pretty well known for making some, let's say, very bold claims.
And all sorts of things. Martial arts, being super smart.
Exactly. So our mission, our deep dive today, is basically to unpack these claims. We've got a stack of sources here, and we're going to look at the counter evidence, the fallout, public professional.
And really try to understand what it all tells us about authenticity, maybe credibility, in this online world we're all navigating.
Yeah, what's real anymore. So you can expect us to get into his whole black belt thing, the moments his fighting skills were put to the test publicly.
And his methods, apparently, for seeming, super intelligent, all straight from the source material we've gathered. It's quite a collection.
Okay, let's dive in. So Brandon really projected this image, this aura of being a genuinely formidable guy.
Oh, absolutely. Confident.
He wasn't shy about his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu skill. He kept calling himself a black belt world champion.
I hate that specific phrase.
And remember the Debo of the Office line?
Yep. Heard that one. Along with, I can beat everybody up, not afraid of anyone.
He even said, and this one's heavy, I've been to war for my squad, which the sources point out implies some serious combat experience, total fearlessness.
It's a strong image.
Yeah.
And, when you put that out there so strongly, you invite scrutiny, which led directly to this very serious accusation in the sources, Jiu-Jitsu stolen valor.
Okay, stolen valor, that's a powerful term. What does it mean in this BJJ context, according to the sources?
Well, essentially, it's claiming a level of achievement, maybe experience, even honor, in the art that the sources allege wasn't actually earned by the usual accepted standards.
And what are those standards for a world champion?
Good question. So the sources clarify a real undisputed BJJ world title that's typically won at the black belt level. In the big leagues, like the IBJJF, usually in DH or ADCC for Nogi, those are considered, the absolute top. The pinnacle.
Okay, the pinnacle. So against that benchmark, where did Brandon's actual record land?
Well, that's where the sources show a pretty big gap. His most noted win wasn't a black belt world title. It was reportedly winning an SJJF tournament as a brown belt.
Ah, brown belt, not black.
Exactly. Still an accomplishment, sure, but the sources are clear. It's not seen as a world title by those established standards.
Yeah.
And the accusation gets sharper. They claim he never competed at the world level as a black belt.
Yeah.
Maybe didn't even compete much as a black belt at all.
So who was he competing against then?
The sources mentioned his wins around that time were often against 17-year-olds.
Yeah.
Purple belts, specifically. Not the elite black belt competitors you'd associate with a world champion title.
Wow, okay. That paints a very different picture than black belt world champion.
It does. And, this whole situation kind of opens up a broader discussion that pops up in the sources, too, about modern BJJ itself.
Oh, yeah. What's the critique there?
Well, some sources suggest that the term black belt itself is becoming, barely even meaningful anymore in some circles. They talk about clubs allegedly giving away belts with membership or having scheduled stripes instead of earned ones.
Like time served rather than skill-based.
Kind of. And offering fast-track paths. Getting a black belt in maybe 3-4 years instead of the traditional, decade or so of hard graft.
3 or 4 years versus 10, that's a huge difference.
It really is.
Yeah.
And it raises questions, doesn't it, about whether the system, in some places, is prioritizing credentials over, deep actual mastery.
Yeah.
It makes you think about what these symbols mean today, not just in martial arts, but everywhere.
And here's where it gets really interesting, especially with that critique in mind. Brandon himself talked about his journey, right? He said he looked for a gym that would be more lenient on the pricing, maybe work with me more.
Yeah, and crucially, help him figure out a way to get my black belt before 10 years. He actually got it in 7.
7 years. So when you hear that specific goal, getting it before 10 years, what does that suggest about his priorities? Was it purely about mastering the art or maybe more about getting the title?
That's the question the sources raise. It leans towards maybe wanting the validation, the prestige of the belt itself, rather than just the pure long journey of competition and development.
Makes sense.
And this ties into another point the sources bring up. How well does sport-focused BJJ translate to, like, a real street fight?
Right, self-defense.
Yeah. The critique is that it can develop bad habits for self-defense, like instinctively reaching for the gi, the uniform top, which obviously isn't usually there if someone attacks you.
Good point. Or being too comfortable on your back.
Exactly. In sport, being on your back can be advantageous. You have guards, sweeps. But in a real fight, as the sources bluntly put it, you're going to get punched in the head. The ground isn't a soft mat either.
Totally different scenario. Concrete changes things.
Massively. The sources even use MMA examples. They mention Kron Gracie, who's world-class in BJJ, getting his head smashed. In MMA fights, where striking is allowed, it shows the limits.
So even elite BJJ has weaknesses when fists fly.
It can, yeah.
Yeah.
Or they mention Bryce Mitchell, whose BJJ is amazing, but sometimes the complexity struggles against someone focused on striking or just defending differently. The intricate sport techniques don't always work against raw aggression or different threats.
Okay, so we have these big claims about skill, the world champion stuff, but then also questions about the belt itself and real-world application. But then things got tested.
Publicly. He put out these challenges, didn't he, to any LA podcaster.
Yeah, for freestyle rounds or MMA-style fights at his own gym, he was calling people out.
Which sets the stage perfectly for what happened next. The infamous body shot match.
Ah, yes, the body shot match. Tell us about that setup. It sounds specific.
It was really specific and kind of audacious according to the sources. You have Brandon, the self-proclaimed black belt champ, agreeing to fight someone described as completely untrained.
Untrained how?
Like, not a martial artist, not a black belt, not even a white belt, just some guy. And the rules were simple. Body shots only. No grappling, no headshots.
Punches to the body. Seems like it should have been easy for Brandon, right?
You'd absolutely think so. On paper, a total mismatch in his favor.
So, round one, ding ding. What happens?
Oh, almost immediately the sources say Brandon just slid across the floor on his back.
Slid on his back from a body shot.
Apparently so. It looked pretty undignified for the supposed expert. His immediate excuse, I slipped.
Huh. The classic, I slipped. Okay, but they didn't just leave it there, did they? Sources say they ran it back.
They did. Round two. And this time, it was even more conclusive. Brandon went down again.
Down again.
Yeah. And the detail everyone remembers, the thing that went viral according to the sources, is that he got knocked out of his fucking shoes.
Literally knocked out of his shoes.
That's the description. His shoes apparently flew off from the impact of the body shot. That image. It just stuck, became an instant meme, completely destroyed the tough guy image.
Wow. Knocked out of his shoes by an untrained guy in a body shot match. You can see why the sources call that a historic moment.
Oh, absolutely. They describe his career ended, that he lost all credibility immediately and overnight. He just became an internet laughingstock.
That's brutal. And how did he handle that fallout?
Not well, apparently. The sources mention a 4-hour cope stream.
A 4-hour stream just coping?
Yeah, where he was seen panicking. Viewers were calling him delusional, acknowledging his fall from grace. It was quite the public meltdown.
And this contrasts sharply with how some others viewed him already, right? Like Lush.
Exactly. Lush apparently never respected the belt anyway. He famously told Brandon point blank, shut your black belt ass up.
Yeah.
So for some, this match just confirmed what they already felt.
It solidified the doubts.
Completely.
Yeah.
And then there was the height thing, too. Adding insult to injury, maybe?
What about the height?
Well, sources claim that while Brandon listed himself as 5'9", observations, especially around the fight, suggested he was actually much shorter than that, maybe more like 5'5".
Huh. So another discrepancy between the image and the perceived reality.
Yep. Just another chip away at that whole tough guy persona he'd built up so carefully.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit, because there's another whole side to Brandon's persona. Not just the tough guy, but the intellectual.
Right. The hyper-intellectual, very calm, cool, collected, very mature one. The voice of reason.
He definitely projected that, like he was above the fray, the smartest guy in the conversation. But how did that intellectual image hold up under scrutiny?
Well, this leads us to another major accusation in the sources. Intellectual deception.
Deception? How so?
The sources describe a pretty specific method he allegedly used. During live discussions, he'd apparently be secretly using his phone, looking things up on Google, maybe AI.
While on air. Secretly.
That's the allegation. Then he'd present this information he just found as if it was his own, deep pre-existing knowledge, often with a sort of dismissive tone towards others.
Without saying, hey, I just looked this up.
Exactly. Without disclosing the source. The sources flat out call this lying, a deliberate move to seem smarter than he perhaps was in that moment.
Wow, that's bold, especially live. Do the sources give examples?
They do. There's one instance during a discussion about something called guerrilla Hebrew, some specific online theology interpretation, and the biblical concept of needing 2 or 3 witnesses for judgment, referencing Proverbs. Initially, Brandon apparently said, I don't know.
Fair enough.
But then sources describe him looking down, allegedly Googling for 15 minutes straight.
15 minutes? During a live show?
Seems like it. Then, after this search, he reportedly jumped back in, speaking super authoritatively, talking over people, acting like he knew it all along. No mention of the phone research.
That's pretty brazen. Was that like a one-time thing?
Doesn't sound like it. There's another example where the topic was literally the definition of intelligence.
Okay.
He allegedly Googled the definition to acquire and apply knowledge, and then used this freshly Googled definition to attack his co-hosts, accusing them of not knowing what intelligence meant.
So he weaponized the definition he just looked up.
That's the picture painted. The sources say he even compared them to squirrels or prehistoric man. It seemed less about discussion, more about, dominating and belittling. Performative intelligence.
It's just such a contrast, isn't it, between that projected image of being calm and disciplined and then these other moments the sources mention where he'd act like a child or a man-child.
Exactly. Or being emotionally unstable, like reportedly being about to break down crying just because someone told him to shut the fuck up.
Doesn't quite fit the cool, collected, intellectual vibe.
Not really. It highlights that gap again between the persona and the reported behavior. And it reinforces the idea about the phone being a crutch.
How so?
Well, the sources mention that when he was caught without his phone on him, right, during a discussion about NATO, he would just completely fold and just start making things up.
So without the instant Google assist, the facade crumbled.
That's the suggestion. It implies the phone wasn't just for occasional help, but maybe essential for maintaining that intellectual front.
Man, okay, so beyond the BJJ stuff and the intellectual claims, his actions seem to have had wider consequences, right? Ripple effects on the shows, on other people.
Definitely. It wasn't just about his own image. His behavior had tangible impacts, according to the sources.
Like the incident with Dodson.
Yeah.
His coworker.
Yeah. The sources detail how Brandon played a role in provoking and escalating a conflict with Dodson, which ultimately led to Dodson getting fired from the show.
So real-world consequences for someone else.
Absolutely. It showed a pattern, perhaps, of instigation that had serious professional costs for others involved. It wasn't just online drama.
And then the accusations of just spreading bad info.
Right, misinformation. Like reporting a comedy skit where DC Baby Draco pretended to be robbed as actual news, or giving wrong details about how county jail wristbands work.
Little things, maybe, but they add up, especially if you're claiming to be the smart, informed one.
Exactly. It erodes credibility, shows a lack of basic fact-checking, or maybe just carelessness, which undermines trust, particularly in that kind of discussion format.
Did all this affect the show's popularity? No Jumper.
The sources suggest it did. They report a plummet in average views for the No Jumper show during the time he was most prominent there, dropping from around 9,000 to 7,000 average viewers.
That's a noticeable drop.
Yeah. And there was also that poll where another host, Suspect, got 69% of the vote, compared to Brandon's 31%. It kind of showed where the audience's sentiment was heading.
A clear preference.
Seems like it. And even when he decided to take a step back from the show, even that move was viewed skeptically by some critics, according to the sources. They saw it as an attention-seeking scheme, not a genuine departure.
So even his exit was seen as performance.
It fits the overall narrative presented in the sources, yeah. A narrative of calculation, maybe performance, over authenticity. Felt like the audience had kind of seen behind the curtain by then.
Wow. Okay, so this deep dive really has peeled back the layers, hasn't it? We've looked at Brandon's public persona, the black belt world champion, the intellectual giant, and seen how the evidence from the sources really challenged, maybe even dismantled, those images.
It's pretty striking. And what really stands out, I think, is how fragile these constructed personas can be in our digital world. It shows how easily they could be built up, maybe misrepresented.
For sure.
But at the same time, it also shows how powerful the public, the collective audience, has become in scrutinizing these things. Through discussion, sharing evidence, just watching closely, people can often see through the performance.
there's a kind of collective fact-checking happening constantly.
Exactly. It's a reminder that what you project online and what's actually real, they're constantly being compared and judged. Authenticity, or the lack of it, tends to come out eventually.
So it leaves us with a big question, doesn't it, for all of us navigating this stuff?
Yeah.
In an age where information is everywhere and crafting an online image is easier than ever, how do you, listening right now, sort through it all? How do you tell real expertise, genuine achievement from just a really good story or a calculated performance?
It's something we all have to grapple with.
Definitely something to think about. And that's where we'll leave it for this deep dive.
Yes. Only thing that I'm worried about, punch one of these pussy ass niggas in they mouth. Then they film and they'll upload it. Suckers do anything for that clout. They'll trick you out of your position if you ain't gained up and you ain't here watching out. Internet bloggers, internet gangsters, who the snitches? I can't tell. On the dead homies and enemies podcast, the only podcast that I know won't tell. But I ain't tripping, I just pay attention to my own little business and I get the smell. I'm in another state, making another plate. Big plat place on my state. A plush hotel, just counting the mail. I do this shit and I do it well.